Hi everyone, thanks for joining today's webinar, Overcoming the Challenges of Capital Project Information Handover. I'm Katie Mowry, Marketing Manager for Utopia Global, and will be the facilitator for this session. If at any point during the webinar you have a question, please enter it into the box on the side of the panel. We will answer as many questions as time allows today, and we'll follow up with you directly via email to answer any additional questions. This webinar will be recorded and available in the resources section of our website at utopiainc.com. Today's presenter is Richard Anderson, Vice President at Utopia Global. Rich is a solutions expert and executive leader in the SAP consulting and software space. With nearly a decade of experience in enterprise information management, he has led his customers in establishing highly effective data governance, data quality, and data migration programs across multiple industries. He has effectively enabled organizations to leverage data as a strategic corporate asset and as the most valuable currency in their digital journey. And with that, I'm going to hand it off to Rich.
Thank you very much, Katie, and I really appreciate everything, all of the comments there. So can everyone see my screen, Katie?
Yes, we can.
That's fantastic, thanks. What we're going to talk today about is the challenges of the capital project information handover process. I'm sorry, my screen is not advancing. There we go. We'll address this in a couple of ways. First, we're going to talk about industry challenges, a little bit about the business case, and then go into some details specifically about the CAP project information handover process, technologies that can be used, and some of the benefits that you can see from starting this journey early. I do want to give a little bit of background on Utopia, though, for those of you who are not familiar with our organization. We've been in business for about 15 years with a very specific focus on data quality, data governance, data migration in the SAP space. We leverage our build, fix, sustain process and methodology in order to ensure that you have the right foundation for data excellence, that you are able to effectively fix that data for the long term, and that you have a sustainable platform in order to maintain the quality of your ever-changing information. As this relates to plants, right, we're going to look at how addressing data quality early on in your process can give you long-term benefits across multiple areas of your business. We are a solution extension partner to SAP, who sells Utopia's SAP MDG for enterprise asset management and retail. The EAM solution will be a key component of today's discussion. So let's start out with the challenge, right? This is a quote that came from Mario Abella from Suncor. And what Mario said is he can go out and purchase an automobile for $25,000, and he'll know exactly what spare parts are required, exactly what maintenance is required to keep that car running. But he can go out and spend millions, if not billions of dollars on building out a plant, and he can't get that same information. Why is that? So the information handover process and framework we'll lay out today can really solve this issue through a combination of the people that are engaged, the process that you use to collect and build out information, and the technology supporting that. Ultimately, though, we are going to talk about asset master data quality and data governance. In the capital project space, the benefits are really significant. Ineffective capital project info handover can add up to a 1% in total costs to that program. But if you look at the other downstream benefits or challenges that asset master data quality and data governance relate to, mergers and acquisitions can benefit because you're able to incorporate newly acquired capital assets for effective operations and maintenance. In your shutdown, turnaround, or planned outage processes, thousands of equipment need to change over the course of that planned program. Regulatory compliance, if you look at Fortune 500 firms in those asset-intensive industries, 2,000 plus asset modifications per month can take place which really can impact EH&S performance. Ultimately, your operational excellence, whether it's a transformation program or your ability to effectively maintain your plants and operate at a high yield, can be impacted by the quality of that information. While the drivers and benefits for asset data governance are plentiful, the business case and ROI provides a really significant benefit. Looking at capital projects, right? We mentioned the 1% that can cause overruns, but even the environmental and safety processes, anywhere from $1 to $100 million, you can reduce those incidents of risk. You can look at plant availability by having the correct information in your plant at the time of startup and commissioning. You can increase that availability over the life of that plant by up to 1%. Wrench time can be increased. MRO supply chain costs can be reduced significantly by reducing obsolete items, reducing parts consumption, or having the right spares at the right time in the right place for your operations and maintenance activities. Ultimately, right, this is what we want to get to. Utopia's vision statement, that EAM hierarchy, is that every maintenance-specific material deserves to be attached to a PM assembly, which is a part of a structured bill of materials that is attached to an active equipment and corresponding flock. This is the guiding principle for Utopia, and it's laid out here. We want to ensure that at plant startup, at commissioning, you have a structure in place you're going to be able to leverage for the long term of that plant. A structure that's going to be ever changing, but a structure that you know you can count on for your maintenance and operations activities. So why is this a challenge? As you know, in your plant environment, you have ever-changing assets. In the capital project space, assets are going to come in, come out, change on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, ongoing throughout that program, throughout that project. Furthermore, you have multiple systems of record. You have your engineering system where you're designing your plant. That needs to integrate to your plant maintenance environment. It may also need to integrate to an extended ECM environment. Furthermore, it's complicated because you have a mix between data types, both structured and unstructured. All of this, right, yields a problem of how do you get these systems to communicate? How do you get the numerous stakeholders to communicate about the changes that take place on a daily, weekly basis? How do you align what ultimately is your as-built environment to your as-designed environment to your environment and SAP plant maintenance? Ultimately, Utopia has come up with a solution, what we call an integrated asset information staging area for both structured and unstructured information. As part of this structure, this staging area, on the left, you have all of your structured and unstructured information that would come from an engineering release or transmittal from your EPC. On the right, you have that ultimate MRO operating environment. And in the middle, you can see here, we have a staging area that brings together the process and systems to manage the challenges that we've just talked about. This staging area is really the integration of several commercially available SAP products. SAP Master Data Governance, the Asset Information Workbench from Utopia, SAP's Asset Intelligence Network, and potentially an ECM system such as OpenText, extended ECM that we represent here. So this is not that, I guess you'd say, some future Star Wars sort of system. It's something that exists now. What we've done is taken these systems, pulled them together to build a staging area that provides the ability to validate, transform, and govern the creation and change of documents, data, anything that's pertinent to that MRO operating environment. On a day-to-day basis, for example, if you have a safety critical piece of equipment in your maintenance system and you touch and change that piece of equipment, the data and documents may change, and you may need to be able to validate and show the process that tells you, I have the right information about this asset. This is the subject matter expert who touched and changed that information. And here's what was changed and why it was changed. You want that audit trail, that validation. So we'll go from here to talk a little bit more specifically about the capital project process. And if you look at the life cycle of asset information for structured and unstructured data over the course of that life cycle, a long-term project such as a capital project, a shutdown or turnaround or M&A activity have complicated processes. They're long in duration. They have numerous stakeholders and lots of what I like to call what-if scenarios. What if I build it this way? What if I build it that way? What if we have this problem? What if we have that problem? Our solution is designed to integrate into each of those phases of this process, from the definition and design of that plant through the operate and maintain and revamp of that plant. So not only does it provide you a foundation to build out structured information over the course of your capital project, but it also provides you the foundation to maintain the ongoing content and information in that solution, to provide you an operating SAP plant maintenance environment that is efficient and effective for your day-to-day activities. This was built out over several use cases across multiple industries. So we didn't just look at oil and gas and chemicals. We've looked at transportation. We've looked at defense. We've looked at CPG. Those types of companies and organizations that really do require operating principles at a very high level of confidence. In the traditional capital project process, and some of you may have seen a slide or an image similar to this, this process can take anywhere from 1 year to 10 years, depending on the size of the program and the facility that you're building out. Initially, at the top, you have your feed and detailed design phases, right? At which point you hand things over once you've made your final investment decision to an EPC, who's going to start going through the procurement, construction, design, and ultimate mechanical completion of that particular plant. During the course of that, they will start to collect documents and data associated with how that plant has been built, what equipment you have in that plant, what spare parts are required. And at commissioning, you get what I like to call dump truck handover. You have reams and reams of paper, I guess it used to be. Now it's more like gigabytes and gigabytes of data and documents associated with the plant, how it's going to operate, all of the equipment, and what's required to maintain it. But it's still like a dump truck handover of information. The challenge with that is that traditionally, in this type situation, the build out of your EAM specific data happens at that dump truck handover. It's only then that you're able to collect, validate, enrich, transform, and load that data into your SAP operating system. Ultimately, right, this does impact operational readiness. What you find is that your operational readiness is decreased at commissioning and startup. You're expected to have people who, lots of gray hair that know how this equipment works, and they can go out there, get their hands dirty to keep things running and keep things maintained. Lots of people required in this scenario. Ultimately, that negatively impacts the production capacity of your plant. We want our plants, upon startup, to be operating at the highest capacity possible. And if you don't have a plant and an operating system to maintain that plant, the inevitable outcome is a reduction in production capacity, which is where that 1% of CapEx expenditures and the increase in costs can come from. So those impacts: reduced asset availability, extended startup costs, the possibility of EH&S risks increases significantly, and ultimately the cost to maintain that plant, especially in those early months and years, is significant. What is our best practice capital project process then? Along the top, you still see that you still have the FEED, detailed design, procurement, construction. Ideally, though, leveraging the asset information staging area, you're able to collect, validate, enrich, and transform that data into a load-ready format early on in the process. This is a phased progressive handover of vendor information. You don't want to wait for commissioning and startup to start collecting and building out your plant maintenance operating information. You want to do that during the design phase. You want to provide a staging area where your EPCs and the folks that will be maintaining your plant can start to build out that system, that solution early on. Ultimately, right, providing that auditable management of change so that the facility is run very efficiently at startup. This increases your production, reduces the H&S risks, reduces the startup costs, right? You're not necessarily going to have operating specialists in that program from the very get-go. That maintenance productivity goes up, and we talked a little bit about this. MRO spare part costs should go down. So how does this function? What I'm going to walk you through now is really what that end-to-end operation of the SAP and Utopia Asset Information Suite looks like. Across the top, in the middle here, we have 4 areas that I'd like to talk about. First, the Asset Intelligence Network from SAP is a cloud-based solution that provides you the ability to collect data from manufacturers and OEMs through transmittal management, content requests, digital service requests, and a best practices library. Next, you have the Asset Information Workbench from Utopia, which allows you in a graphical, user-friendly interface to create and maintain the hierarchies associated with a capital project build-out through a combination of best practice libraries, data collection forms, and the staging area that we refer to as a multi-object change request. The third area would be SAP's Master Data Governance Solution. This would include MDG for EAM, or Enterprise Asset Management, MDG for materials, and potentially MDG for vendors, depending on what solution you're looking for. The final area would be your content management system down here at the bottom. That content management system, as indicated before, could be anything. We tend to work from the extended ECM product from OpenText because of the native integration into SAP and into MDG. So let's go through this process. The first step that you're going to take during this capital project handover process is you'll receive drawings, a tag register, eSphere information delivered from that EPC. That information can flow through the AIN network in the form of data collection forms, and that initial information is going to be used to build out the asset information in your staging area, potentially based on the best practices that you've created in advance of this process. The second area, new equipment and characteristics as they come in, as things change on a daily basis. New equipment characteristics, maintenance plans, spares will come through from those OEMs, potentially through the AIN network and into, again, that asset information staging area. Information, if this is, for example, a brownfield program, information about older equipment can then be delivered from third-party data sources, libraries, that exist in AIN. This can be used to enrich the information about the equipment or spare parts that you have in your particular plant. If that information doesn't currently exist, a digital service request can be extended through AIN and into the Asset Information Workbench to collect that information. You can ask to source that information through that process so that you can build out a fully delineated hierarchy of information about the equipment, the sub-assemblies, and spare parts associated. The master data can subsequently be enriched by standards maintained in that best practice library. Those standards can be internal standards to your organization. They can be external standards, such as ISO 14224, as part of that overall process to create that hierarchy and that structure of information required for your effective maintenance practices. Once that completed asset information has been collected, it will then flow into the master data governance toolset. And this is where you'll have a process of approvals via multiple change requests to create that information. Now, each of those change requests are going to be governed through validations and rules and workflows that flow to the people in your company, in your organization, to validate that they are, as they say they should be, correct and of high quality. Finally, upon that validation and approval, the as-built asset information can be released to your systems of record. Now, that system of record certainly is SAP Plant Maintenance, but remember, it could also go out to a reliability solution such as Meridium, your GIS operating environment, your engineering systems, etc. So it's not limited to only SAP Plant Maintenance, but it extends across multiple systems of record. And finally, once you have released that information about your newly commissioned plant, you can continuously synchronize the information from those disparate systems among assets, systems of records, your ongoing management of change processes. So this is not a one-time event. We know that assets, parts, change on a daily basis. This provides you for the foundation to not only manage and maintain the process during your capital project, but in an ongoing operational capacity. And with that, I think we can maybe just summarize a couple of points here. Information handover during a capital project really does require technology and a methodology that's been tried and true. People, process, technology make this work. By starting early in the process, though, as you start to think about designing and building out a new plant, you can see significant savings and operational readiness can increase not only during the capital project process, but there's also a lot of benefits in the downstream areas. Finally, SAP and Utopia, we do offer a complete set of solutions to automate and improve that capital project information handover process. We talked about some of them here. That included the Asset Information Workbench, SAP MDG for EAM, SAP's Plant Maintenance System, the Asset Information Network, and Extended ECM by OpenText. We would be happy to address any questions about these solutions or how we can effectively take you down your capital project information handover journey. With that, I think we can hand it back to Katie for any questions.
Thanks, Rich. We have a couple questions. What is one of the most common challenges organizations are facing today when it comes to information handover on large-scale capital projects?
So, I think there's a couple of things. The volume of information that comes through in those processes it's significant, and there's no way to fix that other than having, like I said, people, process, and technology to help automate some of those processes, right? You need to have the best practices library. You need to have integration into the systems that are used to maintain your plants in those operating environments. So if you don't have technology and a methodology in place, it's overwhelming. The other comment that I would make is there's some of the EPCs, not all, have certainly made a strong business out of limiting the information that is shared during the capital project information handover process. Others are taking a more proactive approach and integrating into a process similar to what we've laid out here. So during those negotiations, I think that there's an opportunity for a lot of the operating partners, those people that own the plants or operate the plants, to negotiate how information will be handed over during that program.
All right. We have another question. Can you elaborate further on the importance of addressing processes for dealing with structured and unstructured data?
Yeah, and the reason that's so important is because the data that we're talking about that exists in SAP plant maintenance, their equipment information, maintenance plans, spare parts that are required in order to maintain that information, all of that data doesn't start life in a spreadsheet, right? It doesn't start life as a master data record in SAP plant maintenance. It typically starts life in another system or in a document. So it might start life as an equipment spec sheet. It might start life in a PLM system. It might start life in a P&ID diagram. So without having a process in place in order to maintain that data or to create that data in concurrence with the master data, you're never going to have the most up-to-date information. That's why that integration between extended ECM and the plant maintenance environment and MDG for EAM is so critical. You want to be able to look at the equipment manual, right, from which you gathered the information about your master data records. Any other questions, Katie?
No, I think that's it, and we are just about out of time. So if anyone has any additional questions that you think of after this presentation, please feel free to email either Rich or myself. My email address is up on the screen, and we'll be happy to follow up with you directly via email. The recording of this webinar will also be available and emailed out to all of you on the phone, and will be available on our resources section of our website at www.utopiainc.com. Thank you, everyone, for joining.